Right, there's about a dozen states that are rolling back restrictions this week, a handful starting today. Georgia and Montana getting a head start over the weekend, 9 more easing up by the end of this week. The Trump administration optimistic, projecting the economy is in trouble now, but will recover this summer.
I think as we begin to reopen the economy in May and June, you're going to see the economy really bounce back in July, August, September. And we are putting in an unprecedented amount of fiscal relief into the economy.
Joining us now, of course, live is Kayleigh McEnany. She, of course, is the new White House press secretary. Welcome and good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. So
the president has a video conference with governors this afternoon. Very important because some of those governors are reopening, as we noted this week, starting to get down to business. We just played the Treasury Secretary saying he's confident we're going to bounce back pretty quickly. But as you know, Kevin Hassett, another senior advisor to the president, is saying this morning that he's sort of comparing this to the Great Depression, saying this is the greatest shock to our economy we've ever had. What is the president going to prepare the nation for in terms of the days ahead?
Yeah, he's going to prepare for a bounce back. Look, we have the president who constructed the greatest, hottest economy in modern history, and President Trump will do it a second time. He believes there's a lot of pent-up demand in this country, a lot of people ready to get back to work, ready to go out and buy things and go to restaurants. That is there, and that will help us as we begin to rebuild this economy. We're in a strong place. Also, I would note the Paycheck Protection Program, which was just replenished. That funding starts again today, so small business owners across the country will get a chance to get that money to pay their workers. It should have been here a week ago, but unfortunately Nancy Pelosi delayed this. She was out on late night television. She was out eating ice cream as literally people were being potentially laid off. We're worried about their paychecks. So, you know, Nancy Pelosi, she won't lay off the ice cream, but she's just fine with laying off America's workers, and that's a shame.
But Kayleigh, you're talking about Nancy Pelosi and the ice cream from a couple of weeks ago. Fair enough, you're going to make your points, but these are serious times. We've now learned there are over 54,000 Americans who have died because of the coronavirus. I opened up the New York Post this morning, and Mark Meadows is quoted as saying he wants to talk about how hard the president is working during this. But Mark Meadows says, quote, the biggest concern I have as new chief of staff is making sure the president gets some time basically for lunch. I mean, we're talking about people in this country right now. We all know the president's busy. There are people making sure they have money for groceries, trying to get a job right now. Is this White House striking the right tone?
I think you need to put that quote into context. Mark Meadows was asked about what his concern is day to day as he looks at the president's schedule, and he made the point that the president is so busy and so hard at work. You know, his concern is making sure he gets a bite to eat here and there. So, you know, you've got to put that into context. First of all, of course, we are concerned for America's workers. Of course, we are concerned for all of those who have lost loved ones. That is the preeminent concern of this White House. Make no mistake about it. It's why I watch this president get up early in the morning and work until late into the evening to ensure, to that end, America's workers get paid and American lives are protected. And it's because of this president, because of PPP, that people are getting paid. And it's important, I think, to juxtapose that against the delays of the Democrats, to put some fire under them to get back to work, because there should not have been a week in delays for people to pay their workers. That's unacceptable in the middle of a global pandemic. So Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer need to help us here.
All right, well, the question is there going to be a fourth round, Kayleigh? And good morning, and thanks for being on here this morning. You know, you heard from Steve Mnuchin talking about the economy bouncing back, but the president's own economic advisor, Kevin Hassett, suggesting that this economy, our economy, is going to take the biggest hit since the Great Depression. 26 million people filing for unemployment benefits. And you've got 27 minutes from now, the opening for those applications for those small businesses to get the third round of relief. Does the president support a fourth round of relief for PPP?
Absolutely, he does. We're hitting the ground running with that fourth package being put together. Infrastructure is a really important component of that. We think we can get in there. We will bounce back from this. Americans are strong. We're hardworking. We're entrepreneurial. We will get back on our feet. And we've got the president who constructed the hottest economy here to do it. And you mentioned that PPP funding that's about to reopen at 10 a.m. So basically right now, and it's important to note, 60 million small businesses, 90 million, I should say, rather, have gotten relief via direct payments, 60 million relief via the PPP. And of the 1.6 million loans given out, 1 million of them have gone to companies with 10 or fewer employees. This is helping the Americans who need it most. And it's because of President Trump that we have access to this funding, and we will bounce back under his leadership.
Kayleigh, when you look at the the obvious economic hardships that are out there and the millions of Americans that are affected by this, and Steve Mnuchin suggesting that the economy could rebound by end of summer. Does the president agree with that forecast? Because this is going to be an incredible balance of managing people's expectations as we try to climb out of this.
Yeah, we do have to climb out of this. You know, Secretary Mnuchin has a great read on the economy, and I absolutely underscore and second what he has said. And this president's an optimist. He's confident. He's a firm believer. We will work our way out of this. And I absolutely think that this funding we've put forward is a key part to stimulate the economy. And we have the right man in the White House to do this. We have a businessman who knows better than anyone how to get us to the place of having, once again, the hottest economy in modern history.
Kayleigh, I want to follow up on Sandra because she asked a good question about the Paycheck Protection Program. It's something a lot of our viewers have been paying attention to. We've been getting letters for a couple of weeks now from some folks, and I understand there's going to be good news and bad news. People are going to have to deal with paperwork issues. This happens all the time. But you just made the assertion a moment ago that it's helping a lot of small businesses. Front page story in the New York Times, I'm sure you saw, about how a lot of large companies are getting this money, whereas mom and pop shops are not. One of the issues that could clear all this up is if you were transparent and released the list, disclosed which companies are actually getting money and which are not. Will you finally do that? Disclose which companies are getting this PPP money.
Look, let me be very clear here, and I'm glad that you asked this. 0.3% of loans that have gone out, 0.3%, have been to the order of $5 million or more, meaning bigger companies. The vast majority, as I noted, 1 million of the 1.6 million loans that went out were companies with 10 or fewer employees. That is what this program is designed to do. That is who it is helping. And the New York Times, leave it to them to be wrong, and not just to be wrong, but to be really wrong, because that headline is completely dishonest, doesn't serve the American people across the country trying to get these loans. And I would also note thank you to Whip Steve Scalise, who put out a website as we waited for a week for Democrats to get their house in order and come to the table. He opened a website where business owners could come and express their frustration with the delays. I read about a small business owner in Mobile, Alabama, who almost had to do layoffs all of last week as she waited for funding. So we got to come together as a country. Both parties come together. This is about one thing, the American people, not partisan politics.
Well, it doesn't sound like you're going to release that list of who's getting the money based on that answer. You're not happy with the New York Times.
We're concerned with getting money to people right now. I mean, look, we're not concerned with cobbling a list together to please the media.
Okay, back on April 9th, the president wasn't happy with the Wall Street Journal. They wrote that editorial saying his daily appearances before the media were, quote unquote, wasted briefings. They said it was a mistake to focus on grievances. Back and forth with individual reporters, the president lashed out at that time, said the ratings on the briefings were fantastic. Now he seems to be pulling back. Are you finally acknowledging that maybe the briefings were a mistake?
No, the briefings were a great opportunity for the president to speak directly to the American people. It's why millions and millions tune in to the president's briefings to watch what he has to say. They recognize leadership. Leave it to the Washington Post to mischaracterize those briefings, but the American people can see for themselves a president who is leading. So we're going forward. You know, today we're not tracking a briefing. There will be a press avail later this afternoon with CEOs that the president's meeting with. There will be briefings throughout other portions of the week, but these briefings are excellent. They're a way for the president to speak directly to the American people.
So could you clarify that, Kayleigh? So is there an effort to now limit or cut back on the number of task force briefings? We won't see one this afternoon?
Absolutely not an effort to cut back, but an effort to showcase the American people, the great entrepreneurship of this president. There will be a meeting with CEOs at 4 p.m., retail CEOs. Media will be in on that. They'll be watching the president interact with these great CEOs. So we're looking at different ways to showcase this president leading. The briefing's a key component of that. We will have briefings this week. But again, the media needs to not read into what's happening and look at this as an opportunity for the president to speak to the American people via the CEO meeting and later in the week during briefings as well.
So I hear you confirming that the task force briefings will continue after today, the rest of the week. Will the president be present at those briefings?
Absolutely, the president will be present. I'm not going to get ahead of what the briefings will look like this week. They may have a different look. I'm not going to get ahead of those announcements, but make no mistake, the president will be briefing the American people this week. Millions and millions tune in to watch him and see his leadership.
Okay. All right, Kayleigh McEnany, we hope we can get you back on soon. We have a lot more questions we'd love to get to, so we'll see you again soon, Kayleigh. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.